Lyngshed Monastery is located in Zanskar. It was built 500 years ago at a height of 4,000 meters above sea level and faces southwest. Here, completely cut off from the world, live 60 monks and 20 novitiates. We visited them in winter and in summer, and that is what this film is about. A journey through ice and high passes, about a journey in the shadow of the Himalayas. In the words of Gautama Buddha, the way is the goal. We have attempted this. The former kingdom of Zanskar is now a district in the North Indian province of Ladakh. The Buddhist monasteries here nearly all belong to the yellow-capped order, as does the Lyngshed Monastery. This youngest of the great religious and philosophical Tibetan schools came into being in the 14th century. It lays down a strictly ritualized daily routine, which directs the monks on their way to achieving the true teachings of Buddha. In this, they differ from the red-capped order, which does not prescribe celibacy. But all schools of monks in these Buddhist monasteries have only one aim: nirvana. Nirvana involves the suspension of the endless cycle of birth, death, and reincarnation. Nirvana knows no end and is achievable only for the person who recognizes the truth, the path leading to deliverance from the universal human experience of suffering. The path to enlightenment, according to Buddha, is a system involving severe self-discipline and involves acting correctly and meditation. The monk Sonam Wangdus mixes colors for a sand mandala. Mandalas are the most mysterious symbols of Buddhism. Mandalas are used for the presentation of the universe and for meditation. They are a means towards salvation and are both cosmograms and psychograms. The liturgy which accompanies the assembly and creation of a sand mandala proceeds according to complicated rituals. Sonam Wangdus is a master of this art and initiates his pupils into the mysteries. For the next 5 days, 8 monks will be working almost without interruption on this most holy work of art. Such a mandala will be produced only once a year in most of the monasteries. The accuracy of the work is astonishing, considering how little light the monks have. Only when the lighting for the camera is switched on do they actually have sufficient illumination. According to Sonam Wangdus, a mandala implies a mystery. Anyone who uses a mandala to gain prestige, or who shows pride towards others, has completely the wrong mental attitude. A mandala demands humility, presupposes a willingness to help others. This attitude will contribute both to self-enlightenment and the enlightenment of others. This sand mandala is an initiation mandala. In all meditation practices in which mandalas are expected to be a means of achieving a higher reality, initiation involves a proper introduction to the true teachings by a lama. Mystic powers are thus passed on. The monks have given this mandala the name Yamantaki, a reference to Yamantaka, angry incarnation of Manjushri, the god of wisdom. The houses in Lingshed are spread over a wide area. The roughly 45 families are all involved in farming or animal husbandry. Some 8,000 people live in Zanskar, and most of the villages are at altitudes over 3,500 meters. The traditional Ladakhi peasant house will be 3-storied. At the lowest level will be the 2 most important rooms in the house, kitchen and family shrine. Here in the best room, guests will also be accommodated. Every morning before starting his day's work, Tashi Wangdus retires into his family shrine to say his prayers. Buddhist teachings for 35-year-old Tashi Wangdus are a matter of firm conviction. He often goes into the monastery to meditate. Farming here is done by hand, without the help of animals. Barley, wheat and vegetables are grown. Most people here have some land of their own, generally about 3 hectares, which is enough to feed a large family. Summers here are short, and there's 1 harvest per year. It's now September. Winter begins in October and lasts almost 8 months. Lozan Dona is Tashi Wangdus' wife. During the midday break, she makes butter tea, black tea with butter and salt, in the fields. Food without salt is like work without play, is a proverb which expresses 2 of the most favorite Ladakhi pastimes, singing while working and butter tea. The harvesting period is brief. Often there's little time to dry the harvest. Nature has to be helped. Village watermills are run by a number of families. For irrigation of the fields and mills, each village has a water master, a much respected person. He decides on when and how much water is released. The Himalayas are one of the world's greatest unspoiled landscapes, a region which combines the physically measurable with the timelessly spiritual. Here nature is in its most elementary form, dominated by peace and balance. These peasants from Lingshed are up in their summer camps with their yaks at a height of 4,500 meters. Life here would be impossible without yaks. Originally wild and not undangerous, tame yaks are among the most valuable domestic, riding and transport animals in the Himalayas. The dung is used as fuel. The wool forms an essential component in clothing. Yak meat, dried, will keep for months. From milk, butter, cheese and yogurt are made. The milk is heated and stirred for an hour, The necessary fungal cultures are derived from fermented yogurt. Tsering is 45 years old, has 3 children and is a grandmother. Women in Zanskar rarely live beyond the age of 55. Life is very hard. Days have passed. The sand mandala will be finished in just a few hours. For Buddhists, the sand mandala is comparable with a palace and the retinue of courtiers. Many symbols of Tibetan culture have been incorporated. The diamond scepter stands for spiritual power, for the absolute, for nirvana. The meditative background to the mandala is man's attempt to find himself. 5 long days and 5 long nights. The day after completion. Long ceremonies, long rituals. The monks wear 5-part crowns. They symbolize the exhaustion of those who've created the mandala. The creation of a mandala is one of the most mysterious rites in Buddhism. Mandalas are more than just works of art. Buddhism is the doctrine of transitoriness. That is the reason why the sand mandala, once finished, is then destroyed. Buddhist wisdom demands from humans that they exercise self-control. All creatures, indeed the whole cosmos, is to be drawn into a striving towards clarity. The sand mandala is meditation, a means for monks to recognize that everything is part of everything else. The sand is thrown into the river. It forms a final mandala. During our wanderings in Ladakh and Zanskar, we encounter many mandala variants. The group of temples belonging to the Alki monastery is one such. An example of early art in Trans-Himalaya. The facade of the entrance to the main temple, another magnificent example, has defied the effects of exposure to the weather for 1,000 years. They seem familiar, these columns and the capital-like gable beams. Alki clearly bears the stamp of Indian artists. The main temple is three-storied and richly painted. In Ladakh, the ceilings are made of latticed wood and clay. To prevent the clay from crumbling, the ceilings have cloth coverings which are then painted. These may be viewed, perfectly preserved, in the Alki monastery. This large figure is held to be the first abbot of Alki. The only item of clothing worn is a narrow cloth wound round the hips, cloth which was painted in traditional fashion. The figure is almost 5 meters high, a Buddha of a coming age, with the features of a Messiah. The walls on the ground floor are covered with an almost endless number of miniature Buddhas, each one different. Other presentations show life, idealized scenes of courtly splendor, elegant ladies and rider figures, which are also supposed to indicate striving for perfection. The entrance to Dukhang, the assembly hall of the monastery buildings of Alki. This room stands under a preservation order, is watched over by the monks, but is no longer used. The large mandalas on the walls have a diameter of more than 4 meters and are dedicated to Vairocana, who plays a major role in Tibetan Buddhist teachings as the highest deity. Alki village lies in one of the most fruitful areas of Ladakh, where the climate is mild. Apricots grow here, famous for the sweetness of the fruit. Peasants here enjoy 2 harvests a year. For that reason, Alki is a relatively rich village. Before being stored, the apricots are stoned and dried. They provide essential vitamins for humans during the long and freezing winters. Temperatures can sink as low as minus 45 degrees. Altogether, a climate very hostile to humans. Reliquaries and praying walls make the landscape in and around Ladakh and Zanskar quite unique, as are the small hamlets in the valleys. For example, Photoksa, inhabited by some 200 people. Zanskar is also the name of a river. This and the Indus are the lifelines of Ladakh, which lies on the northwest edge of the Himalayan massif, forming a watershed. The result being that Ladakh has only 120 millimeters of rainfall per annum, as much as the Sahara. High above the Zanskar Valley stands the 1,000-year-old fortified monastery of Tongde. Formerly the seat of the powerful Tongde princes, in the 11th century the building first became a monastery of the red-capped order of monks. In the middle of the 15th century, it was then taken over by the yellow-capped order. 60 monks live in this monastery today. But there are also nunneries in Zanskar, quite a number. For many women, life as a nun provides social security, although their lives are much harder than those of monks. Monks derive income from alms and rent. Nuns have to earn their own living and are often very dependent on their families, for whom they often work at home or in the fields during the day. Nevertheless, many young women choose to enter a nunnery in Zanskar. Leh, lying at 3,500 meters, is the capital of Ladakh, which lost its independence in 1834 and at present is a province in the 22nd Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir. In the summer, some 22,000 people will be living here. In winter, when the temperatures drop to below -40 degrees, half the population moves south into the warmth of India. The valley of the river Indus. It rises in Tibet, flows through Ladakh and Pakistan before reaching the Arabian Sea. These reliquaries show the way to the Spituk Monastery, almost within sight of Leh. This is now the central monastery of the Yellow-Capped Order, a classical Ladakhian monastery dating back to the 16th and 17th century. At that time, the red-capped and yellow-capped orders were opposed to each other, which is why monasteries were built like fortresses on rocky spurs. Once each year, the courtyard of the Spituk Monastery is transformed into a medieval stage. The galleries all round are filled with spectators, all in their best clothes. A temple festival. These last for up to 8 days and are very popular in Ladakh. They're generally held in winter because people then have time on their hands. The dancers are monks. The subject of the dances is nearly always the same: the triumphant victory of Buddhism over the old, animistic Bon belief. The performances of the monks are full of symbols. Each and every movement is full of significance. Often the dances in the various monasteries are performed in honor of their own special guardian god. "20 kilometers southeast of Leh is the Tiksi Monastery, which was built in the 15th century. Anyone who's traveling through Ladakh will begin here. This is where one prays for a good journey and a safe return. We do, too. The approach to the Maitreya temple. To the gentle and loving Maitreya, who, sitting on a lotus blossom, is honored as the Messiah of the future. Maitreya is presented in the costume of a king. This statue was created only in the last few years. In contrast to the majority, mostly kitsch art figures of recent times in Ladakh, this 12-meter-high figure is full of expressiveness. The Tiksi Monastery, almost a sculpture in stone. The royal castle and emblem of the city of Leh. It is often compared with the Potala in Lhasa, but in fact is much older. It came into being at the end of the 16th century. The royal castle was both palace and residence for the kings of Ladakh. The population of Ladakh is estimated at about 150,000 and is a reflection of Ladakh's history, in which various immigrant groups have struggled to gain power. Today, mostly Pakistanis and Tibetans live here, which is why this area is often described as a minor Tibet. We are in fact in India, but there are no castes in Ladakh. The Hindu caste system has so far not managed to establish itself here. A Buddhist proverb runs as follows: "Not all fingers of the same hand are alike." It's the middle of January. Final preparations for the trek along the frozen river Zanskar up again to Lingshed Monastery. Riktin is organizing the journey. He's already a very experienced guide, although only 27. Wood is a very valuable commodity in this sparsely forested region of the Trans-Himalayas. Finding carriers for the equipment presents no problems for Riktin. The news has already got round that a television crew wishes to go over the river. The group finally consists of more than 35 people who will be making the journey. The drive to Chilling takes one whole day. We shall be starting from here, where the Zanskar enters the Indus, a journey through a barren but superb landscape. The province of Ladakh, in size as big as Austria, in the northeast borders on Tibet, in the northwest on Pakistan. The Zanskar district is only about 8,000 square kilometers and was, until 1840, an independent kingdom ruled by branches of two princely families. This area consists of gigantic mountain ranges separated by deep and jagged valleys, which on average lie 300 meters higher than other valleys in Ladakh. The road ends in Chilling. The carriers are waiting for us. 8 families live here, descendants of Nepalese craftsmen who came in the 17th century. They introduced iron smelting to Ladakh and the production of teapots, prayer wheels, drinking vessels and spoons. We'd been expecting to meet Zawang here, a monk from the Lingshed Monastery, the final destination of our journey. He was to meet us and accompany us, and Zawang has indeed come. The traditional welcome, with a katak, a white scarf. What is the state of the river in the shade? Excellent, excellent, says Zawang.
We have 5 pieces.
The distribution of equipment and luggage among the 26 carriers proceeds according to a very precise scheme. Since the group will not remain together all the time, each item of luggage is given a number. What we need each day, number 1. What is required every second or third day, number 2 or 3. The carriers are half from Leh and the other half from Lingshed. They're all peasants who are happy to earn some money in winter. Zawang prays for a successful journey, and then tea with a dash of rum, the last alcohol for the coming weeks. The icy route, 90 kilometers one way, an estimated 7 days. nobody knows what awaits him. The weight borne by the carriers ranges between 20 and 35 kilograms. They are happy to have this job because there's so little to do in winter, and now 3 weeks of paid work. A whole year has gone into the planning and preparation of this journey. The technical equipment was all tested in a freezing room because, as already mentioned, temperatures here can sink to minus 40 degrees. How will we come to terms with the cold? How will we stand up to marching on ice or nights in icy caves? The second day on the river in the shade, as it is called locally, a foretaste of what still lies ahead. The lunch break always takes up to 2 hours. And drinking is almost more important than eating. The body loses much fluid in the cold. The main part of each meal is always barley. En route, the carriers will make do with tsampa, barley meal stirred into butter tea, sometimes with a little sugar. The third day. The Zanskar, which only in January and February is partially or completely frozen over and hence can be walked on, is normally a raging torrent fed by numerous glacier streams. Some of the carriers are exhausted. As a result of filming, progress is slower than usual. Some of the loads have to be redistributed. Further up the river, places which are impassable. New paths have to be found. Unforeseen detours which drain reserves, cause delays, and demand total concentration, both of carriers and also of us. With the greatest of care, the men somehow manage to get our equipment through the most awkward places. But on this day, things get even worse. Wood for the campfire at night, driftwood. Lobsang Namigyal at 48 is the oldest of the carriers. He always takes the heaviest load, but is always cheerful. He tells us that he spent 15 years in the army, but that his pension is not enough to support his family. So this, in fact, is an excellent opportunity to earn money. The way is the goal. Finally, Lyngshed Monastery. In winter, only reachable along the frozen river. 90 kilometers there and 90 kilometers back. "30 to 35 kilograms, according to Lobsang Namigyal, is a normal load for him. Zanskar. We're thinking of the ancient kingdom, one of 7 in the Himalayas. Today, merely a district, the administrative unit of Ladakh. The campfire provides some warmth in the evening. Conditions are harsh. Sleeping is done in rocky caves where the temperature falls to -27. We've been marching now for 4 days along the river. The narrower the ravine, the windier and colder it gets. Even the streams running off the glaciers are frozen solid in winter. On the 5th day, we encounter some peasants. They're on their way to Leh to sell their yak butter on the market. Naturally, we discuss the river and conditions further up. Water is flowing over the ice, they tell us. These peasants and monks from Lyngshed, whom we pass on the way, have already been travelling for 2 weeks to bring building wood to the monastery. The wood comes from the capital of Jammu Kashmir, from Srinagar. In the summer, it had been brought by tractor to the river, so that it could now, in winter, be transported over the ice. One more day to reach our destination. The temperatures rise. It's no longer quite so terribly cold. Zawang, a maestro, one who knows every inch of the icy route, a monk from Lyngshed Monastery. The first farmhouse, only a few more hours, a few more 100 meters upwards, and then we can finally see it. Lyngshed Monastery. Another katak, scarf of greeting, symbol of friendship. The other travellers also reach the monastery on the same day. The wood will be used for a new floor in the main temple. In winter, the stone floors are so cold that the building can only be used on rare occasions. The room in the monastery where we'll be sleeping is minus 16 degrees. Lyngshed Monastery in Zanskar in winter. Now we can make comparisons between seasons and landscape. It's no contradiction if monastery life, even in winter, proceeds in the open air, in the sun, on the terraces. In favourable spots facing southwest, it's considerably warmer outside than in the houses. But both in summer and winter, each day proceeds according to regular, complex and lengthy liturgical rituals. In Zanskar, it's still customary for at least one son in the family to enter a monastery. This happens at the age of 7. Educational costs are borne by the family or by the monastery. The novitiates become full monks at the age of 20 at the earliest. For this, they have to have completed 253 vows and have made confession. Butter tea, essential part of any ceremony. The monks will drink up to 40 cups each day. The butter provides the body with fat, and fat means warmth. A monastery is not only a place of self-communion, it is also an economic unit in which each individual has his own specific place and function according to seniority. Everyone, whether monk or novitiate, has his own special duty, which may change from year to year. Stanzing Tashi has been given kitchen duties. These include collecting water from the monastery's spring, not a pleasant task in winter. Stanzing is 11 years old. He became a novitiate 2 years ago when he went through the first initiation. Although novitiates are expected to perform some very hard tasks, in Buddhist monasteries they're still granted some childish pleasures and games. There's a lot to be done in the kitchen at ceremonial times. Furthermore, it's the only room in which it is warm during the winter. Precious brushwood and yak dung are only used for cooking, not for heating. Stanzing makes candles using yak fat. The monastery storeroom. Food for 80 people. The menu is not very varied. Like the carriers, the monks live on an almost exclusive diet of barley meal. The village. In a Ladakian farmhouse, animals and humans live under one roof, particularly in the winter. The houses are built of stone or dried clay bricks. Wood for support beams and window frames is very precious, as it has to be transported over great distances. Work in winter, as with the Tashi Wangdu's family, is done preferably on the roof. As in the monastery, it's the warmest place to be during the day. Tashi Wangdus is the richest man in the valley. He owns some 10 hectares of land, 15 yaks, sheep, and even 2 horses. The Wangdus family has only one son. Child mortality in Zanskar is very high. In Tibetan Buddhist culture, women are accorded high respect. The underlying principle, equal rights for equal work, and this is accepted by the male population. Tsering Tundup is also responsible for the farm animals because her husband is an amki, a healer. In Lingshed, he practices traditional Tibetan medicine. Tsering Tundup is 50 years old. She's brought up 3 girls and 2 boys. As the wife of a healer, she enjoys great social prestige in the village. She helps her husband to collect flowers, herbs, fruits, leaves and roots used in the making of medicine. The Amki house is the only one in the village which has a large glassed-in front. The sun heats the room behind, so that her husband, Rinchen Dolma, can use it for his practice and also for mixing his medicines. For diagnostic purposes, the Amkis use a standard book entitled Secret Instructions, a treatise on the 8-fold essence of immortality. These medicines all revolve around the herbal pills produced by the Amkis. The plants are ground down to a fine powder, mixed into paste and formed into pills. Here we see medicine for stomach ulcers being prepared. The Amki explains to us that many people in Ladakh suffer from such ulcers, the cause being the overindulgence in butter tea. A festive mood on the roof of Tashi Wangdu's house. People dance in Ladakh and Zanskar at all secular festivals. Mostly, men and women dance separately. The dances start slowly, but build up speed towards the end of the song. The women wear piraks. This traditional head covering is passed on from generation to generation. The number of turquoise stones is an indication of how rich the family is. A kind of wooden oboe and damadam, drums, are the only instruments encountered in the Zanskar valleys. The dances celebrate harvest, love, and nature. Sonam Hospital has lived for more than 70 years in Lingshed Monastery. He's 88 years old. The average life expectancy of men in Zanskar is about 55. Sonam Hospital has invited us to visit him in his cell. Each monk has a key made by himself for the wooden locks. Sonam Hospital was born in Zanskar. At the age of 15, he made the irrevocable decision to devote his life to Buddhist teachings. Something he's never regretted, he tells us. When he was about 35, he spent 2 years in a Tibetan monastery. Then the Chinese invaded, and he returned to Zanskar, since when he's never left the monastery. The old monks have a personal novitiate who helps them. Rani makes tea in the winter kitchen, a room measuring 1.50 by 1.80 meters, with no window and a flue to let the smoke out. This is also where Sonam sleeps in the winter. The same ritual each and every day, not only for Sonam Hospital. In Lingshed Monastery, it's almost as if time has stood still for 500 years. But time, as we understand it, doesn't exist here. Those who live here have only one goal, nirvana, the extinction of all passions and human desires. And this is only achievable for the person who recognizes the truth of the path leading to deliverance from the universal human experience of suffering. Suffering, according to Buddha, comes from three evils: the craving for worldly goods, for power, and for happiness, hatred of anything which seems unpleasant, and through blindness and ignorance of the ephemeral quality of human affairs. Our journey is over. We have arrived.